What's up, everyone? We're back for episode 10, the first double-digit episode of the Splatt Show.
Season 2, baby!
After a nearly 5-month hiatus, we're back. But we have been putting in work. We've been out of the office, but we're working from home. And what we have to talk about today is a very, very under-the-radar indie game called Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. So, all jokes aside, yeah, it's a huge game. It already has a ton of coverage out there, but we both played it and we're pretty mesmerized and really wanted to kind of give our hot take on it all. I guess it's a lukewarm take by now. It's been a little while, but we're looking to bring you some new ideas, thoughts, and content around this whole deal. So we're going to talk about why we think people are oozing all over this game and why it's so great and what's making them think that way. And also, I guess me in particular, having spoken with Sam a little bit about it, some of its shortcomings and I think ways that it kind of falls asleep at the wheel. So you probably all already know all these facts, but Legend of Zelda released in March 3rd for 60 smackaroons made by our good old boys Nintendo. So Sam, what'd you think?
All right, so with this game, they're really taking Zelda in a new direction, which is that of the open world game. We're talking, things like Skyrim, Fallout, even Minecraft clearly influenced this game. And I think that what they've done here is they've just blown all those games out of the water, though.
They certainly reinvent the open, or not? Yeah, they modernize the open world genre, I think.
I mean, I think it's enormous and incredibly dense and beautiful, and it's totally the right direction for Zelda, and it's kind of also ironic because in a lot of ways it's more similar to the very first Legend of Zelda than like any other game in the series.
Right. And they actually they gave a talk and they said that they actually like did a prototype of Breath of the Wild in like the 2D form factor of the original Legend of Zelda.
I didn't know that.
As they were working along. Yeah, there you go.
I would love to play that.
Fresh, lukewarm
That's a
content
fact.
for you.
Yeah.
So, man, the game is just totally in a vein of its own. Like you are just kind of starting out on that starting island, and at that point, I think it still feels relatively grounded to what a Zelda experience is going to shape up to be.
Sure.
And then you fucking jump off that plateau, and everything you ever thought you knew about the way Zelda works is erased, and you just forget like that you're playing a game pretty much. Like it's crazy.
And I mean, if you think open world, this shit is really open. It's so open. It's a heck of open. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, I mean, it still hits the Zelda marks. The combat is really good. I think, and probably a little more modernized than say, previous Zelda games, but still keeping what makes it like Zelda combat, which I'm really into, like the targeting a person and kind of having a squabble with them and like reactionary countering and stuff like that.
Well, I was gonna say that's an interesting point because I feel like the combat in some ways like wasn't as tight as something like Wind Waker, where there's a lot of focus put on those like quick time events and a lot of focus on kind of making you feel like you're sword fighting with the dude.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is open. So there's like all these different weapon types that didn't exist in that game. And there's all these different ways to engage with enemies. Like you can go up on a hill and like roll bombs down a hill at them and like kill them that way, or you can fly in there with your parachute and then like shoot a bomb arrow into the middle of the gang of enemies, or you can like skateboard down the hill on your shield and then jump off your shield and then I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
No.
shit you can do.
Yeah, I know, and I agree, and I think that like I was saying, you can still target an enemy and kind of lock on, and like you still have parry opportunities, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
certainly
yeah.
fits the kind of theme and direction that this game takes Zelda, where yes, things are not as clean or like
Yeah.
concise, but it's for a good reason. You know, it's supposed to be a little messier so that you can experiment. You know, it's not
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
option isn't only to lock on, hit them in the counter window, and then mash your sword attack over and over.
Yeah,
Just like
totally.
it applies to all the puzzles in this, or almost every puzzle in this game. It's like if you have an idea on how to solve it, it odds are it'll probably end up working. They
Yeah.
really put a lot of time into the physics system. You can tell, which is a lot of what the like creative space preys upon is like how you interact with objects and gravity and things like that.
Yeah, and then the fact that, I mean, we didn't really mention this, but the fact that you're getting all your abilities at the beginning of the game means that it's so much more organic versus the old structure of, okay, there's a new dungeon, a new ability, and you're going to use that ability in this dungeon
Right.
and then repeat that for the next one. But the fact that you get all your abilities at the beginning lends itself to what you said, which is that you can tackle anything in a number of ways. So it's like truly open in that sense.
Right.
Um, but why don't we talk a little bit about like exploration here
Yeah. Yeah.
and the world? Because when the first thing that struck me about this game, and this was like back in March, is that it kind of, and this is really not something that happens to me often, but it really like shut off my brain so that it was just so engaging that I was just the
Forgot
you
you were
know
playing
the
a game, kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And the only other game I can think of that had this like that made me feel this way that I feel when I play this is Minecraft.
Mm.
And I think the way that they did that is by just creating a world that is just extremely engaging. Even though it's huge and open, it's still extremely dense and extremely engaging. And the first mechanic that I want to talk about with respect to that is the the like on foot like exploration mechanics, which are the parachute and then also the ability to climb anything. So you have this open world, right? And there's tons of like geological features, mountains and valleys, and there's a lot of height variation. And then what you have is the ability to climb anything as long as your stamina will allow. And also, once you get on the top of something, you can jump off, and then you can glide with a parachute. Uh, and I think I spent the first like 10 hours of the game just running around doing that,
Yeah. Well, and
and just
those two mechanics pair perfectly with each other.
yeah,
Like,
those two things are just the perfect loop where I'm like I see something that's huge and of course I want to climb it. So then there's this engaging climbing mechanic. So I climb it and then and then it's like okay, well, it would be really fun now if I jump off this and fly over there. And then by the time I do that, I see the next big high mountain or whatever, and it just becomes this like loop that is hard to turn off the game.
yeah, because you pretty much like once you climb something, like you see something big you want to climb, so you do that, and
Yeah,
then once you're up there, you see the ground differently. Like you see everything below differently,
yeah,
and you spot like a fairy fountain or like something you've never even seen
yeah,
before, and you're like, well, I can't
right.
not be there, and so instead
And I'm
of
glad you said that too, because this all like this that statement you said reminded me of something like Assassin's Creed, which is based around climbing these towers and then unlocking all these waypoints. But with this game, they do it like organically.
yeah,
Like it's not like, oh, we have now since you climbed this, we have now populated your map with like interesting things. It's like you climb it and then you look out at the world, not your map, and you see interesting things.
Yeah, which is the way it should be. It's on the developer to, like it doesn't need to be
it's a
have this
whole
menu
different
interface between it. Like, it should just
It's like
be
a
organic, like you're exploring an open world.
Yo, Matt, what's up? Special guest, Matt Volman.
What do you mean?
No, dude, we're podcasting.
Oh shit! Hi, I'm interesting. I like cool stuff.
What are your thoughts on Zelda?
Stuff.
Wait, what are your thoughts on Zelda?
I like that it starts with Z.
Z.
That's pretty sharp.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an
I like that you
underrated
can
thing.
jump.
That is-
He said he likes that you can jump, which is actually pretty. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't do that in any of the other ones.
Well, you can only jump like situationally,
Yeah.
which is like kind of weird because that's the only video game that is like successful that's like that.
Yeah, you can jump at will in Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
for exploration.
Is Hayden on the other side of this?
Yeah.
Hayden.
Hey Matt,
All right. Wait, what were we talking about though?
we were talking all about climbing and paragliding and all that fun
I'm
stuff.
gonna take a shower. Right.
Okay. And
Thanks, special guest
No-
Matt.
Thank you, Matt. No, we were talking about the fact that, like, in previous open world games, I'm going to call out Assassin's Creed here, and I don't feel bad about it. Where we had that, oh, this is an open world game because we have a big map and we've populated it with, like, waypoints. So now you can follow your map and you can go find those things. But this game really gives you a visceral sense of exploration and discovery because it does not do that.
And that's why there's all this ooze right now, is because
Yes.
for the longest time, like I think the one that comes to mind is Fallout 3 was the first game where I was like, wait, I can just shoot that guy? I can just go over there? Like I'm just allowed to walk in whatever direction I want, and that's very liberating, that's very cool. And in games it was more of an unseen force. And I'm not trying to say Fallout 3 is the first open world game. I'm just saying that that's the one that I remember significantly and having like an impact on me. So
and I feel that way too. Same thing.
So I played that, and it's Fallout 3 is still a really cool game, but it was, I still think the open world genre is and was in its like early stages and like still open for development and improvement. But like, if you ask me, it sort of feels like there's been a little bit of a stagnation. Where especially the bigger franchises like Assassin's Creed,
really we can talk smack on Assassin's Creed all day.
Yeah, they just want to, like, open world was a buzzword for a while, and I think it's shifted.
Yeah.
It's probably found a little more stable ground, but it was a buzzword in a positive way, and then it was a buzzword in a negative way for a little bit, where people were like, "Oh God, like Ubisoft's gonna try and make this game that should never be open world, and it's just gonna be like barren wasteland
where it's there just for it's just there for its own sake."
Right. So people stagnated and they just started checking the boxes on what it meant to make an open world game, and not like thinking about how to actually meaningfully fill like the gaps between areas.
And like I think with any open world game, again, except for Minecraft, I have found myself doing this thing where I shut my brain off and I'm looking at the little mini map in the corner or the radar at the bottom or whatever it is, instead of looking at the open world they created. And every game's guilty of that, like Fallout, Assassin's Creed, or whatever, Skyrim. Yeah,
they place the next carrot on the end of the stick, and you follow it through the open world exactly where they want you to go, like to the next place.
So they reduce their open world into this, like, I saw a really funny tweet the other day, and I forget who said it, but it was like, I love video games because they let me live out my wildest fantasies, like being assigned a task and then completing that task. And I thought it was so hilarious. But that reminds me of like what we just said. Like, yeah, it's just the next thing you need to do. And then you're like, well, what's the best way for me to accomplish this? Well, I'll just look at the mini map and follow the dot that tells me this is where your quest is. But for like Zelda to come along and be like, no, look at the world. Always look at the
not just
world.
Zelda, for Nintendo to come along, who
Yeah,
really have made a living off of extremely tight,
like
polished, relatively linear experiences.
like this is like the kind of this is the sense this is the emotional feeling that you should get from an open world game, which is a sense of discovery and a sense of exploration, not a sense of I've been assigned a task, time to complete that task, you know?
Yeah, or like,
And
yeah.
that's what I feel when I play this game. I feel curious about the next thing, or yeah, and then like every piece of it feeds into that feeling.
Yeah, and so again, we're talking about like if you haven't played Zelda yet, through some odd miracle or anti miracle, you're climbing these mountains and stuff, and really what it comes down to in a lot of ways is the way that they are populating the world is very clever, and such that they are able to, like we've been saying a lot, make it very dense. So in a lot of open world games, Fallout included, Skyrim included, it is interesting to go somewhere once, or maybe interesting to go somewhere once, but then never interesting. Like pretty much once you've unlocked, at least for me, once I've unlocked a fast travel point in those games, I'm like, I'm just gonna do that. And
Yeah, you're not going to take that like old dusty road again
no, but in
and
Zelda,
fight those enemies.
you're like, okay, well, actually, I could go back, but I could take like this different mountain path, and I saw a shrine up there, and I didn't get that earlier, but now, and so the world is littered with all these like breadcrumbs, as I'll call it. So like shrines
Yeah,
are one of them, which are
it's a good word.
amazing, and I would love to get into after this. But
Yeah,
Korok seeds are
yeah,
brilliant little designed puzzles that are just essentially, most of them at their core, like fix this asymmetrical thing, make it symmetrical.
yep.
And it's has no, you don't walk up to it and tutorial text pops up and it tells you try placing an apple in the, you're just like, hey, there's an apple in that basket, why isn't there an apple in that basket? And then once you've done one Korok seed, anything that looks a little like too symmetrical in the world, you want to fix.
Anything that kind of sticks out. Yeah, it
So
just
you'll see like
pushes you to
three
go over
trees
there.
in a perfect line, and you're like, huh. So those are like on such a micro environmental level, and shrines are like more of,
Shrines are just the next bigger version of that.
right, and
In my
these
mind.
have like a defined world presence. They always look the same, but they stick up a little more. One thing that like they talk about in talks about Zelda, the developers and stuff, is like verticality, and like, so a shrine is this height, and a tower that you like, it does like opens your, or like maps an area for you, is this tall, so
Yeah.
it's going to be easy to always have the climbable tower in somewhere in your in your periphery. But a shrine, you're going to need to be a little more keen on where you're looking and stuff, but it's also going to chart like smaller paths along with Korok seeds and stuff that are going to be taking you from tower to tower, from area to area, town to town. And then like on screen right now is a guardian. It's just like a difficult enemy that you come by and can shake up your day in one of two ways, which is either you try and fight them and hopefully win, but probably don't, especially early on, or whatever path you were taking is just no longer up for grabs. And so now you have to invent a different way other than this straight line. And as you're doing that, you probably spot a shrine. And you're like, cool, I'll go do the shrine. And it all, like, everything just loops into itself and all over.
Yeah.
And you're always just traversing a spider web of content. You're never, there's not pockets that are separated by vast expanses. Like, all of these things can be, like, defined, but also have like a high level of variance. Like what is in a shrine is very different. What you're doing to solve a Korok seed puzzle is very different, but they all carry like the same general realm of messaging and are understandable without having to open a map or a menu.
Yeah.
So that's like definitely where this like sits above the rest, is that they found a way to do that. And again, to your earlier point about being on the island at the start, they give you everything. Every movement, every physics manipulation skill is handed to you within the first like 2 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's very
and then
abrupt.
you're free.
That's very abrupt from a Zelda game, because they've made a living off of introducing you one fun mechanic and having you iterate on all the possible cool ways you can use it, and then you fight a boss with it, and then you find the next mechanic and you do that. And here they threw out that opportunity so that instead you never come to a part in this world really and think to yourself, oh, I don't have the hook shot, which isn't in this game.
Yeah.
But I don't have, this ability, so I cannot do this now. And maybe I'll remember to come back to this one like spot in the forest, like, hours later. It's like you have the tools right away, and anything you want to try, you should try, and you will most likely be rewarded for. So definitely an interesting thing that I kind of held my had my concerns about at first, but it really seemed to work out. And again, to that point, I think something that Zelda does that not a lot of people talk about is this game cares so much more about gameplay than it does like world like believability. I don't even know
world building or like realism.
Like
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut you off there because I have to grab my charger. One sec.
Okay. When he gets back, we will talk more about this realism and how they throw it away. Please stand by. In the future, I'll get some elevator music so we can hang out. Wait for him to come back. He's about to be plugged in.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, abandoning realism. Why I love this.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm a designer, but I love this because it's a game. People are there for the gameplay.
Yes.
I have not seen. All I see is people say how goddamn fun Zelda is. I don't see people saying, why does Link have a weird like Galaxy S8 that like lets him have magnet powers and can materialize his body and teleport him, and and then he can just like put it on stuff and it like turns on towers and activates old animals. Like,
what about this?
It's just a glowy blue thing. Who cares? It's fun.
What is a bomb arrow? How does that even work? How are you shooting how are you attaching a bomb to an arrow and then shooting it into I don't know.
That actually makes sense. You could like
really? Is that possible? Because like I'm talking like if you have a bomb and then you shoot it on an arrow, like isn't it just gonna fall really fast?
Okay, well it's called a bomb arrow, but like you could. I think it's mostly just implying that it's an explosive arrow, which you could certainly have an arrow with explosives in the tip, and then they detonate on impact. Similar to how like a gun hammer slams down and causes the explosion.
Right. So maybe that's a bad example, but the point still stands of like.
I mean, for me, it was weird. I had to like I was kind of like, what the hell is going on? But I was also like, you know what? It is fun, and I'm not gonna chew them out because they made a weird like world building choice to make the game exponentially more fun. Like, and I think that's something that's really easy to get caught up in these days, especially as like graphics get better and stuff. Is that like everything must be tied to like this really explicit realism and like must be believable, but like I'm not trying to get assigned a mundane task in a mundane world. Like
I would like to make the point that I mean as graphics and things you get more realistic, maybe it's just something innate in us as humans, but when we see if a game looks realistic, I usually do expect it to have like some degree of realism, and I think that's like not important at all. And like you said, I mean, Nintendo's only about mechanics.
Would you say you wouldn't say Zelda looks realistic, right?
No,
Okay. Yeah, sure.
no. And I think I think if it did, maybe it would be
If Link looked like Nico Bellic or something.
yeah. Then we would be like, then maybe we would feel weird about it. But it like just because yeah, I mean, games that look realistic like shouldn't. I don't know. I feel like
But I
it
mean,
creates the
it's kind of the world you write. Like if you've ever seen Dishonored or anything, like that's a relatively realistic art style. BioShock the same way, but in those
yeah,
games,
that's true.
the lore is integrated such that like these weird magics exist, and I
But
think like
yeah,
once
I don't
you
know.
give
I
yourself
guess
the pass and you say we're not gonna ground ourselves to realism, like just run wild with it. Like let it support amazing gameplay.
yeah. I mean, I guess yeah. I'm having trouble making this point, but like I absolutely agree that like they with this game it really feels like they just they played a bunch of open world games and they were like, well, let's just take away all the bullshit and then let's focus on, you know, throwing all the shit in there that's good and just focusing on mechanics and building everything around that, which seems to be what Nintendo is like best at.
Yes, and for good reason. People like their games because the gameplay is good. They make sure that
Yeah, and that's
before.
and Zelda's a freaking game. Yeah, it's not like yeah, I don't know. It's not based around the story, like that's for sure. The story is just there as window dressing, and it's fine and it's cool. Like, and there's cool characters and all that stuff. But like, it's like absolutely a game and a toy, and like, it's there. That everything that's like beautiful about it is because it's a game, not because it's like a story.
Yeah. So, I think like let's touch on shrines real quick, but then I think
Yeah,
like,
okay.
I think like we've done probably a pretty good job of like explaining what the like essence of magic that Zelda captures.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I love shrines, and this actually is a
Yeah.
good segue because we just talked about putting mechanics first. And this is
Yeah.
not Nintendo's first time doing this, but
Yeah.
they definitely learned that they could get away with it, and it's amazing. So a shrine is essentially like sticking up out of the world, and it's an elevator, and the elevator takes you down. Down where? Down into a barely above gray boxed like level that is just like a playground. It doesn't have to sit on the mountainside. It doesn't have to fit in. You just go down. You're in a place. It's literally
Yeah.
feels like a test chamber, but
Yeah.
in that test chamber is a setup that like explicitly highlights a mechanic or set of given mechanics in a unique and clever way. So in this space, you have a magnet ability, right? In a space,
Yeah.
there might be like metal balls just infinitely rolling down a hill. And if you use the magnet ability, you can pick it up and like push something out of the way and make your own way up the hill. And like, does it make sense to be rolling through the rolling vistas and then come across infinite metal balls rolling down a ramp? Like, it doesn't, but it's
Yeah.
good gameplay, so it
Yeah.
deserves to exist. And so they just
And Zelda's a
quarantine it
game.
underground. They quarantine it underground,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's brilliant. And the art is it has art. I don't mean to crap on it, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very boxy. It's very
And
like,
it's
straightforward,
very
understandable. And
it's exactly the same from shrine to shrine. The interiors and the assets and stuff are just they're like there's just reused, and they're just like you said, simple, like gray and blue. Yeah.
environments. And so this isn't the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time that Nintendo has done this. I'm sure there's an early example. Feel
Sunshine?
free to call me out in the comments, but Sunshine is what I was going to bring up, right?
Okay. Yeah,
And
Sunshine.
I didn't. The weird thing is I never, like, when I played that game as a kid, I never explained it the way that I just explained Shrines to you. In Sunshine, there's secrets, and you just fall into a hole or take a pipe or something, and then you're in like a goofy like
test room. I mean, well, like if you literally look at like you can find this stuff online. If you literally look at like test environments for like Nintendo games like Wind Waker and Sunshine and whatever, like that's what they look like. It's a bunch of like colorful blocks and stuff, and like it doesn't have any grounding in like realism whatsoever.
And the Sunshine secrets are in the released game a series of floating like colored wooden blocks that might be rotating, might be moving, but it's like a whittled down to just what needs to be there for fun.
It's a game, It's about the mechanics right there,
And so in Sunshine, kind of the unique take on it was that whenever you went into a secret, your water jetpack was mysteriously snatched. So in those instances, you were actually just left with like Mario's base abilities, and you couldn't use like the hover nozzle to get around, which again doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why your jetpack always gets stolen whenever you go into one of these weird dream dimensions, but it's because those platforming sections they created were actually more fun without the water jetpack.
But it's in the service of fun.
Yeah, and they're great.
So then
and the
then
music,
who cares?
The music in those secrets, doop 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 doop.
The
little acapella stuff.
Kind of creepy.
Amazing. No, it's great.
Yeah. Well, amazing, but
yeah. So I always love Nintendo for doing that. They're just like, hey, this is good gameplay. Get it in.
Gameplay first, man. Gameplay first.
Yeah, and I do understand that there's room for variance on that opinion and stuff. And if you're someone who loves story in games, Zelda probably isn't going to blow your mind. But Zelda, at the very least, should be highly respected for what it's pioneered in its era. So there's all my ooze about Shrines and all the breadcrumbs and yada yada. I do, however, have some points. Some points against Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, where I think were very jarring for me because Zelda, they decide to take open world and reinvent it in a brilliant way that is like almost undisputedly universally accepted as like
the right way.
Yeah, the right way.
Or a step towards like a true sense of discovery.
Yes, and then they take other elements that are needed to make this like a cohesive action adventure game, and just go back 10 years in time. So the most vivid example that just drove me up the wall was in the first village that most people end up at, Kakariko Village, I believe it's called. There's the Stolen Heirloom side quest. Okay. Now, let me... Oh, shit. I closed my tabs. So, essentially, in short, when you get to the first village, you find up on the hillside, there is an orange ball slot. You see these all over the world. And so you're like, okay, that's like a sphere-shaped hole. I bet if I put a glowy orange sphere in the hole, something cool will happen. And then you go into the main, like, essentially like the mayor's house, like the leader of the village, and you see that orange glowy ball. And so you're like, oh, cool. I'll just take that orange glowy ball up the hill. So you approach it, you press A, and they tell you, no, don't take that. Don't take that. I need you to do this for me first, or some illusion that there is a barrier between when I will give this to you and now. So you're pretty much just shrugging your shoulders like, okay, well, maybe if I just like keep doing the main story or something, she'll respect me enough and let me take the orange ball. No.
Sure.
Instead, there are 3 other side quests in Kakariko Village that you must complete before that dialogue inexplicably changes to like, oh yeah, you can go on a mission and then I'll give you the orange ball. But no, and you want to know what the 3 missions are? One is put a bunch of chickens back in their cage. Another one is collect fireflies. And I don't remember what the other one is. But that none of those have anything to do with me getting the orange ball. It didn't even say like if you become respected among the townspeople. If it said that, then I would know, okay, I should try and help the townspeople. And so then I go to do the firefly quest, right?
Yeah.
You have to do certain quests before the firefly quest. So if you come and you have to come at nighttime. So we went at nighttime to the firefly girl's house. We go in, and you know what she says? Man, I miss fireflies. I can't go out at night anymore, but I wish I had fireflies. I had them. She said she wanted them.
Really?
Just didn't take them. Wow. I was like, what's not working here? Like, I tried dropping the fireflies on the ground, seeing if she would just pick them up or something.
Yeah, totally.
No, I had to do some other random quest that has nothing to do with fireflies. And then only then, when I talked to her at night, she said, man, I really miss fireflies. Hey, could you give me 5? Huh. You always wanted fireflies. I don't know why. You can expect a player to think that some other random side quest would change her from, like, it makes me not think I need to go back to that NPC, right?
That's really odd to me because, well, I didn't do any of that stuff actually, but the fact that like quests would even like depend on each other like that is just weird.
It's fine to have quests depend on each other, but this game is so good at like presenting things organically. There's a bunch of discrete barriers that don't have any explanation.
That doesn't fit. I never encountered anything like that in the game, but like that does sound completely at odds with like how the rest of the game is set up.
Right. So it was like I could have pulled out all my hair going through that, and I definitely just started Googling it. And I remember I was playing this game with my friend Matt, and I said to him we had Googled how to do the quest, and we still couldn't get the Firefly girl to talk to us. Because
it was daytime or something.
No, we were still missing some people. So even an online article, which is meant to be riddled with spoilers and trying to, as best as possible, explain to us, to avid gamers, how to complete it. And even with that explicit instruction list, we were struggling. That's insane. That makes no sense, right? Like, the game itself should be able to organically present me the information. But even when the information is explicitly presented, I still can't figure it out. Like, that's not good. Yeah. That's so not good.
Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely like probably one of my worst moments with this game.
Did you hit any other quest lines like that? I feel like I don't know. I feel like the easy solution would have been like, why are they putting this orange ball here if you can't do anything with it yet? Like, it shouldn't even appear until. Well, this is just one example, but it shouldn't even appear until you've like done whatever it is in the quest line that like makes it appear, you know?
Well, no, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it being there because then I get a thread, right? There's the orange ball.
Sure.
I needed the town leader to say to me like, this is an ancient heirloom, and I can't trust someone who doesn't have like the town's trust. Like, do some favors for the town.
Totally.
I needed a lead. Yeah. And then the same thing with the fireflies. It was like she wasn't like, man, I miss fireflies. Once you throw 10 chickens in a coop, maybe I'll ask you about it. Like,
yeah, I'm really surprised by that. That sounds like really like just out of place in a lot of ways. Just all of that.
And again, I think we definitely felt more resigned towards side quests. So I definitely, like, normally I'm a pretty completionist person, but after going through that, I was like, if a side quest is not like contained within itself, it's very likely that I'm just not gonna mess with it, because it's actually wasting my time trying to literally take shots in the dark at what is going to allow this to progress. So
yeah, no, I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think the side quests are at their best when they do kind of complement the rest of the game.
Yeah. And like the ones where you find the bird guy and he like sings you a song, super cool. I like it. It gives me a hint. I can, execute on the hint if I get it. If I don't, great. But
and it lends it just about, it's encourages you to go explore more. Yeah.
And then there's some quests, like one is collect 55 rush rooms. I don't know why it was 55, but I was like, okay, now just whenever I see rush rooms, I'm going to go out of my way to get them. That's a fetch quest, but at least I understand what the hell's going on and what's expected of me. I
enjoyed quests where there was one quest I did where there was this girl and she was obsessed with guardians and she was like, I want a photo. I want a photo of like a flying guardian and a tiny guardian and a like guardian walking around. So then, I just remembered that. And then as I played the game, I took those photos and then I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I better take this photo.
Yeah, those in my opinion, in all cases, are like the true best flexing of what a side quest is. I mean, okay, there's like Witcher style side quests where you're actually telling a whole nother story, but when you can just set out a small objective for the player that lets them keep playing but experience something that they otherwise would have missed. So like the most black and white example I can give is Uncharted gives achievements for I think 25 kills for every weapon and then like 50 headshots.
Right. So it just encourages you to explore the game.
They're both very reasonable numbers. It's not get 1,000 kills. If I saw I had to get 1,000 kills with the pistol, I would just never do it. But when it's 25, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get that. And then once I get that, if those achievements didn't exist, I promise you I would have just found the guns that made me comfortable and stuck to those whenever possible. Instead,
but now it's like go ahead,
Instead, I would pick up a gun because I didn't have 25 kills with it. I would start playing with it, and then I would be like, I'm not normally a shotgun guy, but I actually really like this shotgun. Like I'm gonna go out of my way to use this like more when I see it and stuff. And I like again, that's like a very black and white example, but like.
No, I like that. And then, to bring it back to Zelda, once I started messing with the camera. And I noticed that they had the what's it called, the selfie function. Then I started taking selfies of myself whenever I would kill a guardian and they would go through their lengthy like self-destruct animation. I would like take a selfie of Link like posing, and then there would be an explosion in the background.
Yeah, cool guys don't look at explosions.
Like that shit is fun. That's just cool. Yep. So now I have a bunch of photos of that, and it's sick.
Yeah, and it could have been like you were playing the main storyline, and he was like, "Link, I need you to take a selfie," and then you're like, "Okay, why?" Like. Oh
yeah, I mean, I felt like an organic way to discover that.
Yeah.
And then like it definitely became something to mess with. Like, there's like that's just gamey. It's just so gamey.
Yeah.
It just makes me want to play with it. It's like a toy, man. It's just.
And like I was telling you before we started today's show, that quest debacle felt like something that should have been in Morrowind or something like.
Yeah, that's like
dated. Like,
totally at odds with the rest of the game.
So and so in the realm of like these weird dated like sore thumbs in this like otherwise brilliant game, this one I don't want to. Tell everyone that I'm correct on this because a lot of people that I've talked to about it don't feel this way. But I really struggled with the controls in this game. Me and my friend who I played with, Matt, both had a really difficult time. And I think so we talked about like a few minor things like, but the core, the biggest one that I struggle with is these bindings for sprint and jump. Which can be super easily explained. So when you play Mario or something, here's this Nintendo Switch right Joy-Con.
Yeah. Wait, I can't see your video.
Right.
Is it
The people?
okay?
Yeah, the people.
Okay. Okay.
So, is it Y that's run? Right. I think.
Cool.
If you were to play Mario Maker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
no, absolutely. Yeah.
So Y is run, and I would hold the controller like so. Y is the left button in the like little square of buttons for those listening to the audio version. So I'm holding that, and then to jump, I simply press down the rest of my thumb. Yeah, rock my thumb to press the B button below it, so I can access both sprint and jump simultaneously.
Yeah.
Now in Zelda, the default is for sprint to be B. Now, if I rock my thumb while holding B, I click in the right thumbstick, which is not jump.
Right. So, I don't know what the Switch
option.
controller looks like. Let me look this up.
They give you an option, and you can bind sprint. You can switch their binding. So you can bind sprint to X and jump to B. Now, what this results in is I now can hold sprint with X with my thumb, but when I rock, I pretty much am guaranteed to press both Y and A with my giant thumbs because they're only like diagonally out of the way, and the Switch controller is so small that like if I just place my thumb on the X button, it's actually covering every single letter button.
And like I played on the Wii U, and I didn't even have that problem. So
yeah, when I was playing on the go, fortunately the Pro controller is bigger and everything's bigger, so there's actually enough space where if I still have to be cautious, but I can usually rock from X while holding X. I can rock to B without pressing Y or A. But when I'm not, I don't know. I just don't understand. Like there's two tried and true solutions, which one is like they do in Mario, Y is sprint, and the other is have clicking the left stick in, which every iteration of the Switch controllers support, like clicking the thumbstick. Because so I don't know, that really,
I'm almost tempted to say that that's like an oversight because it was developed mostly for the Wii U or something, but
so you're saying it's not as much of a, like you're able to, well, so you actually would do it differently. You hold you hold B on the bottom and then like press with the rest of your thumb. Like I rock backwards, you rock forwards.
Yeah, so I keep it. Oh wait, yeah, I keep it with this button being jump, and then this one being sprint.
Right. So you would hold your perfect.
Yeah. And I just rock it like that. But also things are spaced out. Like this is, I'm assuming, bigger than.
Yeah, I'm holding mine up for comparison right now, and I actually don't have the Pro controller immediately on me, but it was probably closer to the Wii U version. So again, I hope you're all enjoying this exciting take on Zelda, and I did mean it when I said we'd get into the nitty gritty. So there's one example of where the controls didn't mesh for me. Another one is the menus in this game they're just a menu. It's just a bunch of boxes, and you just have to flick through the boxes until Kingdom Come. You can't easily categorize things in different ways. You can't have like priority slots or anything like that. And
I really dug these when I first saw them. I think just from a visual design standpoint, but
aesthetically, dude, I love the like shadowy, like transparent box with white text and icons. I love that, and they use that aesthetic all over. Like everything, if they show text on the screen telling you your broadsword broke, it's got like a little black, like foggy rectangle behind it. I think that's just good modern design.
So visually, yes, we like it, but
from a UX,
UI,
from a user experience standpoint, like if you want, so there's categories, which is cool. So like your weapons will be in their own category, ingredients you pick up will be in their own category, and then like key items have their own category, but every category can have multiple pages, and so you can use the left stick to move from item to item. the right stick to move from page to page. But you can't. What I would love is the triggers, which don't have a binding other than they're double bound. Both triggers do the same thing. One of the triggers could change the category, because your ingredients page or category gets to like be like 5 pages. So if I want to go to weapons, I have to press right 5 times instead of just
not only and that, like, I would just want to also say that as you collect more things, it gets even more cumbersome, because like beyond the way that items are broken down, they're not broken down in any other meaningful way except for just like, this is the order in which you collected these things.
Yes.
So
yeah, like and like I was saying, a quest is to collect a certain type of mushroom. It's a quest for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to be organized in my inventory. I just have to open the ingredients category and thumb through until I see the one that.
And you end up reading through a lot of I mean, and I'm tempted to say there was some way they could have organized these things. Like, there's a lot of different kinds of mushrooms. Maybe all mushrooms could be on like a page.
Well, you could sort like by different ways, right?
Wait, you can? Or
no. In this, like, I think you can sort by newest or something.
Which
there's maybe a couple types of sort, but they're not helpful. They're not they weren't ones that were really like.
So yeah, once you have 5 pages of like 25 ingredients per page on a grid, and they all are represented by these little icons, and you're just like, what is that? And you just end up having to like read a bunch to find the thing.
It would be in Morrowind, like just very old school and not in the cool retro way. So again, that's like a little different. That has like some control element, like I was saying, the triggers. But I do feel that the quests and the controls in this were a little dated, and it was weird to watch this game be so wildly innovative in some regards, and then not even just follow like I don't think they needed to reinvent the wheel on controls. But they could have just like done controls out. Like, the game doesn't get better because the jump button and the sprint button are far away. Like
sure.
Like, I don't know. So that was a little strange. And again, the controls, like, I know this sounds like just kind of minor petty stuff, but like bombs in particular, like, I don't even remember off the top of my head, but like one of the L buttons pulls out a bomb, and then like one of the letter buttons drops a bomb, and then one of the trigger buttons, the right trigger button, throws a bomb, and then you press the button you pulled out the bomb with. I don't know. I've blown up so many bombs on myself just out of confusion, and I basically had to establish a habit where if I pulled out a bomb, I would move my finger immediately onto the throw trigger so that I knew. But in some way, that's kind of limiting like the way that I experience the game, right? Because I have to always think like I need to throw next. So
again, I'm also curious about because on the Wii U, the what are they called? So they have R and then ZR. Okay, so that's how Nintendo refers to it. So on the Wii U, the trigger buttons feel a lot different than the Z buttons. They're a different shape and have a different like weight to them. So like for me, that wasn't that much of a problem, but I can't speak for the Switch, because I imagine if those buttons kind of feel the same on your fingers, then yes, it would be.
I think that's maybe a little bit of it. Yeah, they're relative. Like the ZR button, the Z buttons are definitely a little fatter, but they're both just like click buttons. One isn't explicitly a trigger. By any means, and so you just kind of have a disconnect, right? Where you're like, one of the ones up here, and also like the R button, the non-Z one, is like far skinnier than my finger, so it's like not unreasonable to think that I could press both by accident.
Totally.
Which again, it's not. I don't really have a gripe with the controller, but I just felt like
it could have been laid out better.
To control a bomb, you have to use both Z triggers and the regular triggers, and remembering which ones you're supposed to use for which part of it was just like a little bit just confusing. And so like I felt like I had to always use bombs in one way, and I wasn't like, I didn't have control over them like to the same level. So Again, we're getting super gritty right now, guys, and I hope that's interesting to you. I wanted to give like a critical take here and talk about like, because Zelda's still amazing.
Yeah.
But this is all stuff that, you know, can be overlooked. But like, I think it's still worth talking about, you know, to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one more con that actually isn't so nitty gritty. What?
I was just making a dumb joke. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'd say one more con that isn't so nitty gritty would be actually the divine beasts.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, take it away.
I think just to give a high level overview, I think me and Hayden kind of agree on this, that the divine beasts fill the role that a dungeon played in, you know, every previous Zelda game. So there's 4 of them, and you need to go inside these giant divine beasts. They're kind of like giant robots, and then, you know, solve all the puzzles and then fight a boss at the end. So, and I think, you know, I think we certainly agree that the bosses are a little bit lackluster. And I also feel that the dungeons themselves are more linear.
Can we hit the bosses for a second?
Yeah, let's hit the bosses.
So, this game's open world. You can do the divine beasts in any order. There's somewhat, like, I think at least for the first couple, there's like a subtle...
they kind of guide you towards, you know, Zora's domain at the beginning,
right? And that's
at least in my opinion.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, there are like NPCs directly, like they're
like
explicitly placing breadcrumbs that are directing you. Toward.
So like, and I think actually to speak to that, I think I did Zora's domain first, the whole boss, everything, and then I went to like the desert. For some reason, made it to the boss.
Salamander.
That was the giant, like I think it had
the
like,
camel. The camel.
Yeah. Had like long legs.
The salamanders
and stuff.
on the volcano.
Yeah. So second, I went to the desert. I made it all the way to the boss. So I solved the dungeon, and I made it to the boss. Left. Went to the volcano. Mm-hmm. Did that entire thing, the dungeon and the boss. And then I went back and fought the boss of the desert level immediately after that. And then I did the entire, like, sky level.
Gotcha.
So that's just an example of how free you are to just, like, do whatever order you want.
Right. And I don't know if I've talked to anyone who's done the same order, which isn't that, like, surprising. But, like, definitely after that first one, you start to see variance and just kind of what climate is interesting you the most or what quest drags you where. So... that's really cool. What bothers me is, like, I feel like they're just, in a lot of ways, they just feel like a missed opportunity where you throw everything out right away. I can go to any one, but like, and I think, you know, I do get that this could interfere with the like whole open, solve anything any way you want design. But I think it would have been still like kind of cool to have like the Divine Beasts, like dungeons, like accentuate one of your like powers, like the magnesis ability or something.
Okay.
And like,
yeah, sure.
More specifically, the boss fights themselves, because that's what's so cool about Zelda boss fights for me, is that you're innovating and you're like using the hook shot in a really crazy way. You're like actually grabbing on to like the boss's like face in Zelda and like Wind Waker or something, and swinging around and then slashing, and like it's cool and it all comes together. But because they chose to keep the bosses all like ability agnostic, they're just hit sticks. Like they're just fucking meat sponges, and they
can totally. I mean, they can be tackled as like bullet sponges, basically.
Right, and I didn't like. I tried to innovate, and I didn't see any like.
Doing
so. Like
there were certain bosses where they did have like a little trick that would allow you to kill it more efficiently, but you couldn't certainly treat all of them as like bullet sponges.
Yeah, and so, like it just,
and it's not that obvious. It's not like if there is a trick, it's not that obvious.
Yeah, and it's probably not all that satisfying. Like, so I think I found the trick on one of the bosses, and like it was almost like just better to not do the trick because your reward isn't the same. Because in the previous Zelda games, like you can't get your opening without doing the trick, right? That's
Right.
usually how the boss works. But again, I had one boss where I don't even know. Like, I don't think he hit me. I think he did like one attack, and then I just swung my sword so much that he just kept getting put in hit stun, and then like longer hit stun, and then he was dead. And I was just like, what was that? And
that's surprising.
And I was on the bird, dude. I thought I was gonna get to do some sick stuff, and like the bird was gonna like change angles while we were fighting. Granted, I get that's hard, but like I don't know. I just like I was really excited for the bird boss fight because we were literally in the air. And I thought that was somehow gonna like tie into things, but it was essentially just a flat, plain battlefield with like a few pillars and things. And so that one in particular was like underwhelming.
So I guess in that sense, weirdly, like the openness of it kind of detracted from like what usually makes a Zelda boss like fun.
And I don't think that I'm not saying that they have to do what I'm talking about where like this boss requires magnesis, but what I am saying is that if they wanted to do this, they needed to put more effort into the bosses, and they needed to have more like spelled out like multiple tricks, not one trick that's pretty well hidden. Like, hey, well, if I use magnesis, I could probably like hit him on the head and stun him, or if I use the time stop ability instead, I could stop one of his projectiles and hit it back at him or something. Like, but just like when you're in the boss fight in the moment, those things have to be super like clearly like experimentable. You're trying to not die too, so you want to be you want it to jump out at you. Did you play the what are they called? The evil like people who disguise as other people. You know what I'm talking about?
The Yiga clan?
Yeah, the Yiga clan. Did you fight the leader of the Yiga clan?
Yes.
That was the best boss fight in this entire game, hands down.
Oh God, I don't even remember that. Just go ahead and explain it.
There's like I think there's a hole in the center. You're like in an arena, and like he dances around and stuff. But like I think you have to hit projectiles back at him, and he like has like things that rotate around him. And he's also probably the best character in the game. Like he's funny. Like
okay. Now I'm kind of cheesed off because now I'm remembering that, and I'm remembering that was like a memorable moment. And and at the end they're like, "Oh, you haven't seen The Last of Us," and then I never saw that guy again.
Yeah, but I remember doing that boss fight. And I was like, "Holy hell! I'm playing Breath of the Wild, and like I'm having fun fighting a boss, and like there's like concepts to understand and execute upon." And so I don't know why like if they allowed it at all, why they allow it once, like it was so good. It was so good. And like and it wasn't just a good mechanical boss fight. Like the boss itself had personality, which I understand the divine beasts are fucking robots, so you're not gonna get that. But
sure.
I don't know, man. So they definitely showed that there is potential to fit that into this landscape. Maybe and they just I feel like dropped the ball on it.
Yeah, totally. And
dropped the orange glowy ball.
No, and then like I want to also now move on to the point of the dungeons just real quick, because like usually they require you to explore the like entire inside of these beasts and like you have to find several waypoints and like activate them before you can fight the boss. So actually, I don't know. I'm finding it hard to like put words to this, but like that wasn't really ever doing it for me. Like, even though you could explore the dungeon in, a different way each time, and you could like find these waypoints in any order you wanted. I feel like there was something about that just wasn't doing it for me. Like I just felt like it was tearing me away from the entire like open world that I was enjoying.
Sure, yeah, and like, there's just something lackluster about.
It was a little. Yeah, it was just a little bit. I mean, it was still like open in that you could complete all the tasks in any order, but it just felt a lot more prescribed than kind of anything else in the game.
Here's an interesting thought. Like, you can maybe in some ways argue like shrines are a little prescribed, right?
What's that? Shrines?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they yeah,
Like
I
what
think
if,
shrines usually have like one obvious solution, but I enjoy those. And I feel like maybe that's just because it tears me away for just a second, and then
you're
you
not
know,
you're not yeah, you're not like
yeah,
continuously fuddling. Yeah, cuz especially when you get stuck in one of those divine beasts, it's like very stagnant.
yeah, it's annoying. You're
There's
running
nothing
around, you're
going
like,
on.
what do I do? What do I do next? Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that is probably what differentiates it from a shrine because I love shrines and
Mhm.
I think they're awesome, but it's just like the shrine just provides a nice little counterbalance where I leave the open world for like 5 minutes and I just like solve this little like brain teaser and then I go right back to it,
Mhm.
and but I'm a little stronger now, because I got my like prizes and things. Whereas yeah, the dungeons just felt like too much,
Yeah, and I mean
and I feel like
at,
yeah, go ahead.
at face value there's something cool about like manipulating these giant beasts and moving all these big moving parts that are like shifting the landscape that you're like working with.
Yeah,
But another like a downside to that is like shifting it is like after you've done it a few times, more becomes a chore, and because you're
that's a
moving
good
like
point.
big machinery, it takes a little bit of time to move.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
especially if you've moved it from position 1 to position 5, you're just like, all right, well this is what I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna wait
yeah.
10 seconds for it to move to position 5, and then I'll find out that position 5 was
Isn't
wrong.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
then
that's a good point
yeah,
too.
so that like becomes a drag versus like something neat.
Yeah, so it's gamey, but in a very like cumbersome way that kind of tears you away from the like core of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It is like an interesting thing. I appreciate because to me it is I do struggle a little bit with the fact that like I do miss
Wouldn't it?
some of the
Yeah,
classic
right.
Zelda stuff
Wouldn't it
in this
feel
game.
exactly? It's like wouldn't it feel weird without these like dungeons? But then it's like, but I also don't really enjoy these dungeons. So that's like a interesting dilemma.
Yeah, I wonder too, man. Like imagine if
I
it was like a
almost
shrine like approach to these things where you go inside the beast or something like that, and but they just have all this space like they do in shrines where you just go underground,
yeah,
right? And like
yeah,
they could theme them out, so if you're doing the lava guy, there's lava and stuff, and like pu- puzzles are based around fire and stuff, but like that's the thing, man. Like none of them had any like unique
yeah,
personality to them. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm in the lava place, I'm doing hella lava stuff. Like I was just like,
yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, I flipped this
And
switch and this moves this way. Like
then to expand on that, all the cool lava stuff that you did do was not inside the divine beast. It was just in the world,
sure, yeah,
which just drives home the point even more of like the real meat of this whole game is just on the entire like overworld map.
yeah.
Like the beasts,
Hmm.
not so much.
I don't know. Yeah, so I guess we've kind of had like we've had alternative suggestions for controls and quests and things like that, but I don't know that in this given moment I have like a specific idea on what I would explicitly prefer in its place. Because like we're saying, there's
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
conundrum
It's
where you
hard.
you want it to exist, but like even we can't quite
I
picture
you know
in what form.
Yeah, because like I really think it would be fine without it, but it also does like serve a purpose, which is um no, I don't know. No, I feel like it'd be fine without it.
Yeah,
I think the purpose it serves is almost like sentimental.
okay, but do you think bosses need to exist? Like I think you need like milestone moments, and so
Yeah, I don't because also at the end, if we can say spoilers, can we say spoilers? Are we doing that?
I'd rather not. I feel like
All
we've
right,
been
yeah,
pretty
let's
good so
not.
far. So
Let's not. Maybe let's just say from a story perspective, it feels good, but then again, like the story's not that important.
yeah, and that I'll just I'll just keep it short. But yeah, I was not impressed with the story. But like you said, it's
I don't even mind
it's
that.
not trying to be Last of Us, but
I'm so glad that it's like as sparse as it is, to be honest.
Yeah, and almost when they did try and like branch out, I was just kind of like, no, just leave it. Just
Yeah,
leave
it's
the
like
hero's tale. Like,
it's like, let me just play more, like when there's cutscenes and stuff.
yeah,
It's a total game. Like, yeah, I feel like it's tempting to be like, oh, Zelda's like a high fantasy thing, so it's got to have like a story like, Elder Scrolls or like Lord of the Rings or something. It's like, nah, dude, Zelda is a game.
Yeah.
Like, more so than those other things. And that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, we definitely had some good laughs playing it. Just like Ganon just is evil. Poor guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't have a reason. He just is. But,
He's just a bad dude.
Bowser just is evil. I want a Bowser game, man. I want a game.
Bowser.
I want a game that somehow validates Bowser or like gives me
Bowser's behavior though. He's a serial kidnapper, man.
Okay, but think about it. Think about like, all right, that Nintendo passes off the Mario Bowser license. They already did it for the Rabbids game, right? Hear me out.
Yeah.
They pass it off to Naughty Dog.
Okay.
Naughty Dog does an origin story game on Bowser, and you learn that like Bowser's parents are fucked up, and like that's why Bowser's fucked. Like, think about it. You could just. I'm just
imagining like a young Bowser, and he's like smoking a cigar, and he has like a Hawaiian shirt on, and he just
so he just is so.
He just yes.
I was just saying like flex on Naughty Dog's good storytelling power.
Yeah, totally. But then the way that Naughty Dog operates is freaking opposite to the way Nintendo operates, because Naughty Dog is like, let's tell this story, and then they're like, well, in the service of telling. Yeah, exactly. They're like, let's tell this story, and like these cutscenes move the story forward, but then in between you kill thousands of people. And then Nintendo over here is like, well, this is a game where you can like move giant balls around. Nintendo's like, this is a fucking game. You can move giant balls around with like your magnet abilities.
Samsung Galaxy S.
Like, and then we need a story to go with this. So like, this guy's evil, and this guy's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm mostly kidding, but I think like that'd be a really cool culture shock.
Yeah, no, I think we've lost the plot a little bit here, but that's fine.
I mean, you don't believe, but I believe, so it's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I think I mostly vented all of my thoughts, which are pretty much either glowing or like stinky thoughts. But yeah, I know we kind of ended on the lesser notes, but like all the stuff we said up front about like you will still get lost in this game and stuff, but it really comes down to like some accessibility stuff, right? Like navigating menus, being able to complete quests and stuff. But like the moment to moment is fuego.
Yeah, that all that said, like I think this is the best Zelda game, and I think if it's not the best open world game ever that I've played, then Minecraft is. It's one of those two. And again,
part of this podcast and what we're hoping to do is like be critical of even games like this. If we were just like a review outlet covering it, it'd probably mostly just be about how it's really good.
Yeah, no, I feel like
we want to get into like why decisions are made and things like that. So hopefully that's interesting if you're listening. I know this episode's been going a little long. Obviously, this game's a lot bigger than the ones we normally cover.
Yeah, so. I feel like we just scratched the surface. I don't know. I would just recommend it.
Yeah, definitely worth playing. Switches just got a huge value boost because Mario came out. Which is another amazing game.
That's what I'm gonna play next. Maybe we should do Mario next. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
We can put Mario in the back burner because I know you're going to play it. But
Yeah,
let's do something a little shorter so we can keep
for sure.
our schedule on.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, I think that's more or less what I have to say about Breath of the Wild. It's really cool. If I'm being honest, the game kind of wore on me over time. Like there was a point where I felt a little less like I kind of was like, all right, let's go fight Ganon now. Like let's go finish the last Divine Beast and fight Ganon. Like I've kind of done the Shrine Korok loop enough times, and the goals left for me are getting like a little like tedious. Like if I wanted to upgrade my armor more, I need to like have these explicit ingredients from these enemies I've seen like twice or something, and like and you know, I don't think it's bad that stuff exists, but it was like, do I want to farm? And I just really didn't. So
Sure.
and I you know, and I don't know, I for a few reasons I think I just kind of I played the game a lot and I felt like I had my time with it, so I was ready to wrap up, I guess. But
Sure.
yeah, super cool stuff. And
Yeah,
I just wanted to say there's a note on you put on this little list we have here. You can't climb in the rain, really. And that's
I'm not sure I'm not sure why, like just why.
I mean, we talked about how willing this game is to abandon realism, but they just weren't ready to. They didn't think people could handle climbing slick surfaces.
Yeah,
like, it's just
I don't like. And I just don't see. I mean, and this is Nintendo, right? So everything is in the service of gameplay, and I just don't get this.
No, I think
Why?
Matt and I were playing together, right? And every time it happened, one of us had to verbally say, like, "How does this make the game better?" Just as like a therapeutic thing.
Yeah, because like when it rains, essentially, it's like you have to stop playing this game now.
It's like you have an objective you've set out to do.
Climbing,
and it's like,
you're gonna climb.
Yeah, it's just like wait 5 minutes instead.
You're gonna be climbing a lot in this game,
and
so for them to interrupt that, it's just weird.
Yeah, definitely. Super strange.
Yeah.
You good? Any other Zelda thoughts?
No,
right.
Zelda's awesome.
Check it out. Like I said, the Switch is definitely worth it now. So if you didn't, I never bought a Wii U. I bought a Switch for Zelda, and Mario is also paying dividends. I might.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't really played Mario, but I think for me, Mario's the better game. Not that either of them are
no
bad.
Shit.
But
That's some shit.
Mario's
dude,
better.
I put like 70 hours into Zelda. I can't even. I gotta jump onto Mario.
Yeah, it's different. You got to play some of it with me, but yeah. So cool. We want to talk a little bit about some news, as we normally do at the end of the podcast here, and I would imagine that most of you can guess what we'd be talking about, which is pretty much the gaming news that has actually managed to bleed into the rest of the world, which is Star Wars Battlefront 2 and EA's
for the PlayStation 2. No, the new one. Okay.
Yeah, very confusing. And its inclusion of microtransactions. So if you aren't familiar, essentially, and this is from I have not played the game, but I will just relay the facts that I've found online, so we can have a starting point. In Star Wars Battlefront 2, you buy the game. I think it's like $80 for the special edition or something. And essentially, someone put out a comment saying, I bought the $80 special edition of Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I cannot play as Darth Vader yet, and there's like not an explicit way to do that other than throwing a bunch of money at it until a loot crate gives me what I need.
So Vader is behind a paywall?
Well, Vader is behind either a paywall or a monumental time wall.
Or like playing the game for like a ridiculous amount of time.
Someone's estimation, someone not from the company's estimations, was that you would either have to spend $2,100 to unlock everything, or 4,500 hours of raw playtime and generating like the basic currency to unlock.
Dude, what are they trying to do here? What is this?
Well, they're trying.
Is this like
they're trying?
Is this a platform? Like, is this a game, or is this like an entire like?
They're trying to make Star Wars an extended and engaging experience that users will continue to come back to. by just spacing out
Right.
content you should have from the start because we couldn't come up with anything better. Like, the reason people come back to Destiny is they release expansions and raids and stuff, not because it's really fucking annoying to get Darth Vader. Like,
Okay, yeah.
So this comment happens on Reddit, and the EA community team Reddit account responds, saying the intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. And then they go on to vaguely cover, like, we're looking at numbers and trying to balance stuff, and we'll maybe listen to your feedback. So this comment goes on, again, a lot of you probably heard all this, but goes on to receive negative 675,000 downvotes. Or I guess I don't need to say negative then, but has a score of negative 675,000, making it the most downvoted Reddit comment by hundreds of thousands. No other post has negative 100,000. This one has negative almost 700,000. So also, here's the fun fact.
Wait, let me log in and downvote this real quick.
The post has 86 golds. Do you know why? Because Reddit will like filter out a downvoted post if it gets too downvoted, right? Like it will go below the score threshold. So I guess by giving it gold, you can like give the post priority again. So people were like, I need to downvote this because I hate it, but also I need to make sure that everyone else sees it. So
they pay $15 to EA.
They stack gold on it. Dude, I don't care. That's just savage.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's awesome. So yeah, EA comes under fire for about a week leading up to the release of this, as people are playing the beta, and the people who come in early are just wondering what, because I think that's what it was, is if you paid $80, you were playing the game before it officially released. So whole lot of snafu, whole lot of, I saw a Twitter infographic floating around that was like being really savage. I want a different word, but all I can think of is savage, where it was saying like, hey, it was like pointing a finger at Disney, like trying to get Disney's attention because they have the Star Wars license. They're like, Disney, did you know that EA is like making this game and Star Wars is for kids, and there's fucking gambling in this game? Like, that's messed up, Disney.
Right.
And they were just, trying to just buzzword them into the ground and give them a bunch of bad press for it, which whatever, they were saying like, if EA is going to play dirty, we're going to play dirty. But I mean, I didn't specifically participate, but for me, I think just any noise being made about this is a good thing. So noise keeps getting made, and noise keeps getting made. All sorts of different stuff. Lots of like big figures trying to like get their stance out on it, and reviews like dropping several points because the game is so like bogged down by these microtransactions. So like, the consensus is not that it's a bad game. It's just that the game is really hard to play because you're just constantly like locked out of stuff. And
so all the like mechanisms for progression are like kind of steering you toward, well, this is going to take forever, so you should just like buy the thing that you want.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that's how it works. I think you can buy more loot boxes, which is just like better odds. Or I think you can even buy like better loot boxes that have a better chance to drop better stuff or something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I hope we're not reporting too much false news here. I have looked into it a decent amount, but I have not played the game myself. Don't plan on supporting this product at this time. But yeah, it's pretty. It's really kind of this. It's not the needle that the straw that broke the camel's back in any way. It's like the bowling ball that broke the camel's back. Like, there's already a big pile of straw. The fact that Shadow of War, the new Shadow of Mordor game, it's so confusing. I hate those names, dude. The new Middle Earth.
Wait, it's called Shadow of.
No, it's Middle Earth Shadow of War, and the first game called Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor.
Right.
So Shadow of War is the new game. It has like end game, late game, like loot boxes that like orcs come out of, and you like unlock different orcs to protect your castle.
You get a loot box and then an orc like comes out. Okay. Yeah, that's realistic.
So, yeah, man.
That's what Tolkien wanted.
Again, I haven't played it, so I might be exaggerating exactly how that looks and works, but just kind of smells a little funky, right? Like,
Sure.
it's hard to say, like, oh yeah, Shadow of War is better because I'm randomly getting orcs out of the end game, right? Like, it's removing the idea, like the problem with all these loot boxes, especially as like they become gameplay. Like, as soon as you introduce gameplay, you can't set goals anymore. Like, you can't be like, I want to play as Darth Vader, so I'm going to set out to do that. I'm going to unlock Darth Vader. You're just like, I want to play as Darth Vader, so I'll play the game anywhere from 0 to 4,500 hours in hopes of unlocking it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I guess it pulls down the entire like facade of like what makes a game fun, right? Just pulls it down.
And again, they're just losing sight of gameplay, and it's really unfortunate because you can see that they're like they're tacking it onto these franchises, right? Like Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor is an amazing game. No microtransactions, just a game. You play it, it's great.
Yeah.
You want to play the next one. Well, guess what? I'm sure part of the agreement was that you know, what the publishers want to hear now is our game will be sustainable and something that players will keep coming back to. And I don't have a problem with that, especially because what isn't always realized, but I think is more commonly stated now, is like Shadow of War is not a cheap game to make. And I imagine they're going to sell the units to cover the cost, but I don't think there's a problem with using your development effort to create a more sustainable experience. But it also is hard because like Shadow War is a single player game. Like it's a game like 1 and 3. I don't know.
Like games have been doing this for a long time through things like expansion packs.
I think like Destiny is really the positive example where like, in most cases, I know the whole shader thing has people in a hoot, but like Destiny is a game that has a story and that has end level content. It's very much has kind of the WoW cycle to it, but what they do is then you continually come back for these expansions and things. And these raids and stuff are free, like as they come out. At least right now, I think they are. I think once like they explicitly release an expansion, then you will pay and get access to those raids and stuff. But that's fine. I'm paying once for more content. You know, like that's cool, and not out of the question. You know, I think it's very cool when a developer guarantees you any updates or DLC to the game will be free, but it's not necessarily economical. Like, it's cool, but now you're like, one of your favorite developers is seeing less, like, no money for work that they're doing, right? Because they've already converted you to buy the game. You're not buying the game for the DLC. You know, like Stardew Valley, for example, they're releasing the multiplayer update and apparently some new content and stuff, and that's really cool. It's free. That's awesome.
It's just like,
but it's hard. You know?
You're right, sure. I mean,
in the case of Stardew Valley, I don't think he needs more money. So, like,
sure.
A butt ton, but that's not the case for every game. And Stardew Valley also doesn't require like a 400-person team to make, which I'm exaggerating numbers there, but
sure.
So just mostly something to think about. The conclusion of this whole week of uproar led to EA putting out a press release. In which they essentially stated that they will be turning off all microtransactions on release. So the game was set to come out Friday, and on Thursday they announced that they had deactivated any microtransaction aspects, and that they will be revisiting their model, and they will be turned on again at a later time.
Which feels like a way to appease people and get them to buy the thing so that they can ultimately do the same thing they were going to do just a little later.
Yeah. So, But I think probably the hope there is people are still trying to mobilize and be like, please don't buy it just because they said they're going to turn it off and then basically turn it on once you get back in.
Yeah, like,
but
I can't believe that.
Like EA's stock price took a hit.
Yeah,
and that's really important because
money talks.
Up until this point, the only people perceiving a problem with microtransaction in games were the people playing them, but the people like paying to have them made and produced and stuff were just like, oh, well, they're like, hey, do you want a set amount of money or do you want us to add these loot box things so that we can make more money? And they're like, hey, we saw hey, we saw that they made more money in Overwatch because they added these loot box things. Like, could you just go ahead and put one of those in there? You know, but maybe like crank it up a little bit. Like I think we could really squeeze some dollars out of these.
Yeah, I did. There's a line that is crossed in terms of like authenticity.
Right.
It's like,
and so now, like you said, money talks. Now this stock price is changing because the community was finally able to like make a noticeable pushback, and now the people with money are like, hey guys, we said we wanted more money, but we didn't. Now you just pissed everyone off. You know, like.
They're like, our stocks are literally down.
At the very least, like
that's what they care about.
Those money people now will be like, hey, be careful when you put these microtransactions in. I don't want another Battlefront 2 on our hands, like.
Yeah.
So everyone in some way or another understands that it's a problem now, right? It's made its way to reflecting into the stock price, which I think is important, and now has everyone understanding that there are consequences for like trying to be so thievish.
Yes.
I don't know if that's actually a word or if that's just a thing from Sly Cooper, but I think you get my point.
Yeah.
Cool. So EA, not that cool. We'll see what happens.
Zelda cool, EA not cool.
Nintendo, let's go Nintendo.
Are those the right opinions?
I'm so glad to see Nintendo back in the swing of things. I love that we already have a Zelda and a Mario on the new console. I don't actually know what the release calendar looks like from here, but I do think there's a lot of like cool little pocket-sized indie stuff that I want to check out, like SteamWorld Dig 2, Golf Story.
Golf Story.
Mario Rabbids looks cool. That's not as pocket-sized, but like good games for on the go and stuff. Like I definitely don't feel like my Switch is out of content now that I've like played Zelda and Mario.
As a like Nintendo fanboy, to see Nintendo pick up the open world thing and run with it, and just, I mean, that I feel like that game, that method of making games is like kind of a Western thing, and then to see them kind of adapt to that and just put their whole spin on it is awesome. As a fanboy.
Let's go, Nintendo.
I love it.
Yeah. Wii U was definitely the dark times. And I don't like. It sounds like a fake story when you tell it. Like, so yeah, Nintendo released the DSi, which was the DS with a letter on the end of it, and it wasn't a new console. And then they released the Wii U, which was the Wii with a letter on the end of it, but it was a new console.
Yeah. Odd choices. Anyway, it looks like they are bouncing back.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up with our little good old games by association segment here.
Cool.
So the word of the day is gonna be fair. All right. So I actually already have a few things jumping to mind. One is just the first thing. The first thing that came to mind is the like fair/festival in Chrono Trigger, where you can just play all those games and stuff. That was pretty cool. And like a pretty iconic moment. I liked a lot. The mini games, most of them were kind of cool. I think there's like some button mashy. I remember there was at least one that I thought was fun to play. The other thing is maybe a factoid for some people out there who aren't as geeked out in Smash as us, but fair is shorthand terminology for describing a character's forward aerial attack. So Sheik does the slap. I'm trying to think of Captain Falcon's Thunder Knee attack is his forward air and or fair. So His actually doesn't
there you
really
go.
get called fair often because you can just call it knee. Like, oh, down throw to knee. But, like, Sheik's move is usually called fair, if not slap. And then that also applies to all the other aerials. So, like, a back air is called a bear. A down air is called a dare. And then up air doesn't really fit into that
Up air.
category. Because, it's you can't really say ooh air. Although,
Yeah.
I would be, I think we could go with tear because it's the top aerial.
Yeah.
We could find a way. But
Should bring that up to the community.
I'll let them know. I'll put out a mandate. So fair. Anything else? Any other fairs?
I thought of like Roller Coaster Tycoon or something, but that's not really the fair. That's like
It's just what the word makes you think of.
yeah. I've never even played that, so I don't have anything interesting to say about it.
Come on, dude! It's free now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can like I think you might even be able to play Roller Coaster Tycoon like in your browser or something.
Ooh,
But
that's
there's definitely
tempting.
like RC2 Source or something, and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is the best one. So
Okay.
definitely check it
I'll
out.
have to check that
Definitely
out.
cry because Roller Coaster Tycoon was made in assembly.
Oh yeah, that is absurd.
So pour one out for the poor homie who made it. Let's find out for everyone real quick.
Who made it?
Yeah. Wikipedia. It was made by Chris Sawyer, the designer and programmer. That's fucking badass.
Props to Chris.
Yeah, good stuff out there. All right. I know this episode has gone a little long, but I had a lot of fun talking about everything.
Woo!
I will send out an email to Naughty Dog and Nintendo. I'll CC Nintendo, and we'll try and get this Bowser Dark
Bowser
Timeline
reboot.
upbringing story in motion. As always, any questions, comments, feedback that you have for us, send it on over to thesplatshow@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @thesplatshow. Nice and simple. And also, if there's a game that you think you would love like for us to cover or take a look at, you can let us know in an email and stuff. And any questions you have that you want us to like read live, we can answer for everyone to hear. So like if you want to know what our favorite childhood game, I don't know. You guys have better questions than that. We're just a bunch of idiots who talk a lot. So send them our way. Let us know if you like the show, if you hate the show, what you would like to see improved, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, the plan is to try and get back on a more 2-week schedule. We're going to try and tackle some smaller games again, like we were doing in the start, so we can be a little more consistent. So expect probably next Sunday, tentatively for now, and we'll make sure to get on Twitter and announce once we've decided what game we're doing and all that.
All right.
All right. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace, y'all.